All right, everyone, I'm excited to introduce my next guest, producer, composer. You've probably heard his music in one of a million trailers. He's everywhere: film, TV, video games. Welcome to the show, Brent Daniels. Hey, Brent.
Hey, Jeff. Thank you so much for having me on your amazing show. You have so many cool guests. It's a real honor to be here.
Well, we're adding one cool guest today, one Brent Daniels. So, music, I got to tell you, is probably my least knowledgeable area. So I'm excited to be schooled a bit by
Oh, I
you.
hope I will be a teacher then.
Yeah. So it's fascinating because when we started talking, you're talking about your niche is in trailers, movie trailers, right? I assume it's not your fault they give away all the plot now. You're just the music. Brent, before we kind of get into and look, I mean, just so everyone knows, I mean, we're talking like Bullet Train, Flowers of the Killer Moon, Hawkeye, Black Widow, Black Panther. I mean, Brent's resume is insane. So when we say, oh, he does movies for trailers, we're talking about some of the biggest movies, TV shows ever. I mean, around, so this is big stuff. Have you always been in the music?
Yes, since I was three, I've always been in the music industry. It feels like that. I would say I've always been musical since like three. The music industry came later, but it's interesting how I got into this side of it. Like making music for movie trailers is, I mean, technically it's part of the advertising industry, so it's marketing, but it's got like one foot in selling things, obviously, but it's also got another foot in underscoring basically what is like a mini movie, whether it's, a 2.5 minute theatrical trailer or a 3 minute trailer or like a 30-second TV spot. Or something that plays on like TikTok or Instagram. Those are little mini movies. So you're kind of really serving the story of of a very short story at one point. And I didn't get into music at a young age thinking I'd be doing this at this point in my career. It was just kind of like I went where the money was in terms of what we call sync licensing in the entertainment industry. So when you're making music as a composer or a songwriter, or if you have a band, you can get your music into like a show like Shameless on Showtime, for example, very famous for using a lot of local Chicago bands, a lot of indie artists, and getting your music into a show like that. You might use a sync agent who handles all the licensing and pitching your music to the music supervisors for a show like that, and they'll put the song in the show, and that is like one source of revenue for a lot of composers and producers. And I was definitely doing that for a long time. And then at one point, I was like, I like making shorter form stuff, and for me as a producer and songwriter, and recording all the vocals myself, writing lyrics, it just was a lot more work to make a full track than it was for me to work on something that's more like underscore. It has a lot of the kind of sonic things I'm really interested in. So I moved over into the trailer side of sync licensing. So it's like this little niche of a niche industry, which is licensing music to either to commercials or TV shows or film or video games. And the trailer side is a little more, it's it's a little more off the beaten path, but it's really really fun to work in. And so while I started as a songwriter and a producer and a signed artist, I over the course of my career kind of ended up, at least right now, in this side of the industry, which is to me overall just a lot of fun. It's really fun to be part of these different movies and TV shows.
So it's interesting you brought that up about the TV show. Now I don't know if any of your stuff was in Suits, but you know how everyone's watching Suits. I've been watching Suits, and I'm like, wow, there's some really interesting songs in Suits. Like there's like some stuff that you recognize, and then some stuff that's like clearly like I'll call it indie, but it's like so that's a whole industry in itself, kind of finding unique or unique music for these shows to kind of give it the vibe that it needs.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's a really in fact just kind of exploding side of the industry, because we have so many shows, because obviously now we have streaming networks that we didn't have 10 years ago. Didn't Suits come out like originally like 10 years ago is what I heard? And
Yeah, it's 10 years old and it's been off the air since like
right.
2019. Yeah.
Right. So back then, what we had Netflix, but there was no Disney Plus yet. There was no Apple TV Plus. There was no HBO. Well, now it's called Max. So but now we have all these networks. We have all these shows, and so there's actually this need for all of this content. So it's actually a really cool time for independent music producers and composers and songwriters and bands to be writing and getting their music into these shows and movies. And then there's the whole other side of it, of the people that are selecting the music. So we have the music supervisors that are pitching these tracks or catalogs of tracks to the shows and the studios to get these different tracks in there, or the music supervisor, actually, so that backward, the sync agent is pitching the tracks, and the music supervisor for the show is looking for music. So yeah, that's a whole other really cool side of the business where people get to pick the music that serves the narrative or the story. Yeah, it's, I think, really exciting for anyone who's into creating music, even if it's not their career and all that they do. There are a lot of people who are just getting into writing music now, as while they're retired, or as their second lane, while they're working somewhere else, following their dreams and making music. And hey, there's my song on a Netflix show. It's really cool.
So I know you mentioned following the money and it's dream and it's cool now, but like back to 3-year-old Brent. I mean, were your parents musical? Was there anyone in your family musical, or were you the creative one in your family?
Well, there definitely have creative siblings, but I think I was the only one at that age who was playing around on an old organ, which is how I was discovered by my parents that we should give that kid piano lessons.
Your parents
Um,
discovered you. Look at our
yeah,
kid. He's awesome.
yeah, and they're wonderful people, but neither one of them play an instrument. So that was, I don't even know where that organ came from, but we had this old organ, and I was plunking around on it. And so yeah, it was more me just kind of playing around with stuff as a kid. It was definitely all the arts. It was playing on instruments, banging on things, drawing comic books and stuff like that. And I think when getting into those piano lessons in fourth grade was kind of the catalyst for everything that followed. After that, it was like, oh, I really like this. And so it was, studying music in high school and taking music theory. And then I think pretty early, like in the late 90s, is where then I got signed, and then just really started just doing this. I don't think there ever was so when I said earlier, like, 3-year-old me has always been in the industry, it is not really a choice. It's not just me, it's like all my peers who make music. They don't, the career chooses them. They don't really choose it. And you've probably heard that from other like writers and other people in the arts. You don't really have a choice. It's something you're obsessed with. So definitely, I've always been obsessed with sound and noise, and the wind is playing this note. What note is the wind playing? Like, that's just the way my brain works. So fortunately, I found a career path that I enjoy and that is really rewarding. Not that it's not challenging or difficult to navigate. It's as cool as I keep saying it is for people to get into this business and to be part of the process of making stuff that we all love to hear and watch. It's also famously has no support structure and is very speculative. It's not a thing that I'd still recommend to anyone without a backup plan. Yeah.
Were you in band in like high school, college? Like when did you make your first album?
So as a piano player, there weren't as many options for me for playing in band. Although, funnily, in high school, they let me play a synth. They let me play the synthesizer in pep band, which I don't know how common that was in the late 80s. But yeah, I had a Roland Juno 106 that I was playing bass on. So I was playing bass in the band in high school, but it was a synth bass. So somehow got that synth in the mix there. And then I kind of in my early-ish 20s, mid 20s is when I got signed off of a demo. Back when you could send a tape to a record label, and that experience is really interesting because, funnily, the label that signed me was TVT Records in New York, and they don't exist anymore. But they were, I'd say, funnily, because now that I'm making music for Sync, it is. That label, TVT, stood for TV Tunes. So they were a label that specialized in acquiring all the rights of all the old TV shows. So like the first couple of releases were compilations of like the Gilligan's Islands theme and Good Times. And they did really well with that. And then they signed Trent Reznor, Nine Inch Nails, as like their first non-TV tune signing or acquisition. And that record was Pretty Hate Machine, which blew up and put that label on the map. And then they kind of became more of like a label as we know them. But yeah, so the label that was releasing compilations of TV theme songs is what I was signed to initially with a production partner of mine. It was like a studio band, very like cinematic kind of sounding music that was, things I was a fan of, like Depeche Mode and Nine Inch Nails. And all the tracks I was making were very like soundtracky anyway, so the label ended up licensing those tracks into different movies and TV shows like Charlie's Angels, the 2000 year 2001. That's kind of how I learned about sync licensing. I'm like, oh, wait a minute, you can like make a song and then get it in a movie? I think I'd rather do that than like play on stage, because I like being in the studio anyway, putting on headphones and doing the whole Alan Parsons I'm never leaving the studio thing. That was a long answer, Jeff.
No, it was fascinating. It was fascinating. So let me ask you a question. Like when the sync licensing, is there a limit to how many times someone can use the same song? I feel like I'm Only Human. I feel like I may have heard 1,000 times. I'm only human after all.
Yeah. And by the way, that was a very good rendition, Jeff.
Thank you.
You're welcome. That's a really good question, man. And yes, if you own the rights to it, you can license a piece of music as many times as you want. That's one of the cool things about it. Actually, here's an example. There's a track that I did that was used multiple times in different trailers, and you'll hear it in these trailers. And actually, you mentioned some of the movies. So this is like a 15-second spot for Bullet Train. Right? So listen to the music in this track.
The White Death waits for you with his army of assassins. We prepare together, we'll die alone. I'm gonna hurt people. Shh. Take a day off, Karen.
Bullet Train, Thursday, rated R.
Okay, so that's a track that I wrote called Cold Cocked. Now that same track is also in this trailer. This is a trailer for The Bad Batch, a Star Wars animated show on Disney Plus, and listen to the music in this trailer.
The clones of Unit 99 have a tendency to veer from standard protocol.
We do what we do.
The Empire will control everything, and I am going to be a part of it. You made the wrong choice.
He can send everyone in the galaxy.
What are we waiting for?
We're not out of this yet.
The Bad Batch. All episodes now streaming, only on Disney Plus.
And then it's kind of funny because then this is another trailer. This is for the show Hawkeye, Marvel Studios show on Disney Plus.
There's only about 1,000 of them. 2 of us. And that's not the only thing.
Even Black Widow.
That was really fun.
Experience the show that everyone's talking about.
He's someone you don't want to mess with. Kingpin.
The people need to be reminded that the city belongs to me.
Wow, I did not see that coming.
Marvel Studios Hawkeye. All episodes now streaming, only on Disney Plus.
Jeff and I are both laughing because it's like, as you hear the same track and these different things, it's like, it's almost kind of silly. It's funny. And here's one more. This is a game. This is Destiny 2 made by Bungie. I won't play the whole thing, but again, same track.
What is the relic on Mars? The power to create your own weapons.
So you kind of get the idea there. So that's I think that's my most licensed track that's in different trailers. Yeah.
Do you call that your mortgage track?
We'll see someday. We'll see.
So it's interesting because like I mean it's clear when you play them back to back. Oh, that's cool. It's the same thing. But like when you're it's interesting because when you're mirroring like very specific visuals like Bad Batch or Bullet Train, which I love that movie, by the way. I thought it was fun. That it doesn't sound necessarily the same because you're almost applying something different to it, as opposed to like when you're watching a thing like a commercial, Microsoft, going, I'm only human. Yeah, like when it's words, it's the same. You know what I mean?
Right. And number one, all those trailers are spaced out over the course of 18 months, I think, for all those different shows. So no one's hearing them back to back like that. And then you're right about the context. It's like those are all different kinds of shows. And you're also correct. There's no lyrics or words in these things. So while it's definitely genre stamped in terms of like being action oriented, it fits into, each one of those properties is kind of an action, has at least the trailers are cut to action. While it's definitely in a specific genre, there aren't any words, so it's a lot more placeable into different things.
So when they license that music from you, are you just handing over your baby? They take the song, they can do what they wish with it, or are you actually helping sync it up with the trailer?
That's another great question. Generally speaking, I mean, no. Absolutely speaking, no. I'm not. I'm handing it over. I mean, so there are a couple different ways, avenues that music works in trailers. One is a custom situation where you're getting a request to make something. But even in that case, generally speaking, you're not working to picture. You're not working to any picture most of the time. The other lane is where you have a track, which is the case of this piece that I was just playing, that I have made in advance. And then that is pitched to the different trailer shops or trailer houses, hundreds of companies, most of which are in LA, that get music all the time. That was looking for music for all their trailers they're working on. And they cut the trailer to the music. Once I hand it over, sometimes there'll be requests for modifications. Like there was a track that I did, actually it was a custom request that I had done for, what was the show? Oh, it's Ozark. I think it was season 4 of Ozark for the main trailer, and that didn't end up landing. But then a trailer house was cutting to that same track later for Killers of the Flower Moon. And then they had a 30-second spot they were working on, and they wanted to extend it into a 60-second spot. The studio really liked the cut, so they were like, couldn't do a 60 seconds. So they wanted more stuff added, and you get like 12 hours, maybe 24 hours to turn something around to try and do it. But even in that case, I'm not seeing any footage. They're not letting me see, they're not giving me any footage that's gonna leak out anywhere. So it's basically like, text notes. We need something that's, can you do this? Can you do that? So yeah, whether it's a custom kind of situation where you're being asked to do something, or you're being asked to modify a track that you've already made, or you just made a track in advance, which is frankly the way I and a lot of people prefer to do it, because then you can take your time, you can create this piece of music as you see fit, hand it off, and you give them what we call the stems. They're like the multi-track version of the track. So you've got bass, drums, everything separated out, so the trailer editors can essentially remix the track from a 2.5, 3 minute piece down to, like a 30-second spot, a 60-second or whatever. They can freely move all the parts around. But yeah, once you've given it to them, they can do whatever they want with it. Frankly, I'm totally fine with that. It is important to note that it is a license. It's not a buyout. So I'm not like literally selling them the track. As you noted, the reason you can reuse stuff is because it's a license. So they can use it, like in a Facebook ad. They can use it on YouTube. They can use it for TV spots. And that's generally what happens. It's called an all media license. Usually it's all media excluding theatrical, but you can also have all media, just all media where it can also play theatrically. That's a big, long, wordy answer, dude.
No, look, I mean, these they're not short answers. They're very intricate things. Here's my question for you. When you said they can remix it and do all that kind of stuff, but they come back to you if they need it from 60 seconds to a minute 20 or whatever. Can they use AI?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, I haven't been asked that question. Usually the questions are about how do we use AI in music do you mean to like generate music?
Well, I mean, it's a 30-second thing. And then you got the Bad Batch thing, and they're like, I'm just making this up but like they got the Bad Batch commercial, and there's a scene where this thing blows up. So the song's great, except they want something like more dramatic in this one spot. So they go, here, AI, take this one great thing that Brent made but then in this one, make it like so it's like pairing with an explosion. So the AI goes bam, or whatever. you can license that if you need to.
That was
and
yeah, you're recording this, dude. So now we have a sample of that. We're gonna make a trailer of that. That's great.
Exactly. Bam, bam, bam.
So, well, and that's funny because that's the way like publisher or music supervisor. Sometimes it's the shortcut to explain the kind of sound we need. Like we need something that goes like do like that. Sometimes that just gets the job done. As far as AI at this point, currently there isn't really generative AI for doing music at the level that's useful at all for this type of stuff. The tools that are available to the public right now that, like Google's making stuff, for example, that you can play around with that generates like background music that you could use as, that wouldn't normally be served by like a low-end production music library. But it's not custom, it's not bespoke in any way, and you're certainly not getting any kind of like artistic viewpoint on the thing being done. And it's very similar to the whole thing that was happening with the writer's strike and the negotiating around using AI to punch up a script, which is like or an AI to make the script and have humans punch it up, where it's like but the core thing is garbage. I can't punch up garbage, Fred. The same thing still applies in music, right? And definitely in the trade the music world, although it's kind of it has its tropes and its structure that make a trailer, like a 3-act structure, and it tells a story. It has an arc, even if that arc is only 30 seconds long. It is still what music supervisors and trailer editors and producers at the trailer companies, and ultimately the studio heads who are proving in the case of definitely a big budget movie, like what the main trailer is. What they're looking for is something that no one's ever heard before, or something that is not what was used in that other trailer. So as much as like I'm playing a version of a track that was used in multiple different TV shows and games, and Bullet Train being the exception, a lot of the music that I'm writing, if it's used in a main trailer, like I did a track that was used, and there was no customizing at all. It was just I did this track, and then the trailer house had the full track with all the stems, and they cut a trailer for Chaos Walking. It's a Lionsgate film from 2021. And they cut the trailer to that. That track hasn't been used in any other main trailer and probably won't, because it's already been used for that thing. It's had its exposure, and then another studio wouldn't use that as their main trailer because it's kind of like identified with that film is kind of the thinking. I mean, even some studios don't like, well, there's one in particular that does not like anyone to think that the music for their trailers is made by composers that aren't the studio itself, because they want to have this illusion that we have this bespoke custom music. This music is bespoke and custom, but it's made by thousands of composers all over the world, like myself, who are bringing their own, viewpoint and level of artistry to it. So that kind of thing is sought out by the trailer houses and separates this little micro niche of music production from, say, like library music you can get for like a podcast or something to play in the background on a influencer's YouTube channel or whatever. So that is not, I think, on the short-term time horizon for replacing my job, but down the line, who knows? As far as your initial question about do they, if they need something extended, and I can give you an example here of what like a piece of trailer music is that you make specifically for the intention of it being used in a trailer. And that's mostly what I prefer to do and what I do most of the year. I'm just making tracks here in my studio, and those tracks are 2.5 minutes long. So that's more than enough to cut down to a 30-second or a 60-second TV spot, or to use as a full trailer. If they need something, if there's a custom request to add to it, it's usually not time or more of the same elements. It's like, we would like to repurpose this for this other movie. Can you add this kind of stuff into it? Like whatever that thing might be. They would ask either the composer or the representative of the composer to, hey, we're working on this thing. Can you add stuff to it? They would ask for you just to do it instead of a robot. I hope they keep doing that.
Yeah. I mean, you're better than a robot.
Thank you, man.
You can put that quote on your website if you want.
Better than a robot. I'll do
better than a robot. So licensing is something you want as a business model. I mean, versus like, do you want Martin Scorsese buying that track so that no one else can ever use it? I assume that costs a lot more. are those two existing models that could work either way? Like if you're like, oh, if someone wants to buy it, God bless them.
It's not just in trailers, but in marketing for film, TV, and games. The music side of the music industry. So if it's a label just releasing a record, generally speaking, nobody ever wants to sell the copy, the copyright, the masters, the publishing, which are all different things that we're getting into here. But you always want to retain ownership because there are performance royalties depending on what it is. If it's a song playing on the radio, that's your performance rights organization, like in the US, ASCAP or BMI. You're getting royalties for that. Public performance. If you license a track to, we mentioned Shameless. If your track plays, whatever it plays on Showtime, you're getting, royalties for that. So that's you owning the writer's share, for example, of that a piece of music, and then the actual recording, the master. Okay, now I'm really getting into the weeds here. But bottom line, generally you don't want to let that go. A label, it's definitely was very common in the back in the day for artists not to be aware that they shouldn't give up their publishing, for example, on a track. And then when you're signing a label deal, you're also, you know what, this is more than you asked for. Let's just talk about trailers.
No, Brent, this is we're learning.
Well, good.
I don't know anything about this. I'm sure the folks that listen, we have a certain level of knowledge, and I'm assuming they're learning along with. I find this extremely interesting. Let me ask
Cool.
here. Let me give you a way to tell it. Maybe you'll find you won't feel so self-conscious about it. Explain to me what happened to Taylor Swift, why she was able to re-record her own music and make even bazillion dollars more off her music after it was sold.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Well, that's a situation of Taylor wanting her autonomy back and ownership of that music. So she was able to do what's called a re-record. And that's to regain, because she didn't own the masters, which is common when you sign a record deal. That's different for what we're doing in licensing for trailers. Here, I own it. Any of these tracks I've played are co-owned with my publisher. I work with different publishers that pitch my music and administer the royalties and handle also negotiating with the studio ultimately if a trailer is going to finish, which is what we call it when a trailer is got the go-ahead and is released. But I'm not doing selling any physical, mechanical, no CDs, no streaming of. It's not like the same situation necessarily. But in the case of signing a label deal, and I'm not completely aware of everything with Taylor Swift's situation, but I do know that her re-recording and re-releasing her hits is the way to get around not owning the masters to the original, so she could continue earning that revenue off those, because obviously those are huge songs. Prince did the same thing to, get around his onerous Warner Brothers contract. From his point of view.
Got it. Have you ever, you don't have to say specifically, I'm just a yes or no, because I doubt you'd want to point it out. Have you ever seen a use of your music and you're like, oi, I'm gonna not take credit for that one.
Oh, like
you're like, what did they do to it? They turned it into just all violins or something.
Oh, yeah, no, not that. But, I have to say, there's it's almost a miracle to get music finishing in any trailer because of the way it's set up. Like these trailer houses that make the trailers, for any trailer that's released, or definitely depending on the size of the film, let's say a major motion picture, a 3-minute theatrical trailer for a Marvel Studio trailer. There are, maybe 4 or 5 trailer houses all competing to get that same main trailer. And they're working with their own publisher that they work with that might be representing the composer. So you're competing with other composers. Then also the studio might have someone in-house. They're cutting their own trailer. There are all these levels of competition happening. And then the trailer is, especially at that level, is going to be focus tested, to an audience in the Midwest to see, do we like this? And the difference between that trailer finishing over the other ones could come down to something that has nothing to do whatsoever with the music that's in it, with the cut that the editor did, and it could be amazing. It could be because an actor on the film is really opinionated about it, or the studio head is, or there are some trailers or movies rather, for which the trailers definitely are going to go past. Like if it's a Mission Impossible trailer, Tom Cruise is very hands-on with the marketing for those movies. You know, he obviously produces them. So there are so many layers to any of these things happening at all that to me, it's like, thank God that made it into a trailer, you know? So I don't have any complaint about any one of my things showing up in anything in terms of trailers. Now, shows where it could be like a reality show when I was earlier in my career, maybe I, number one, wasn't as skilled as I am now, much earlier on. Number two, I also wasn't as informed about how things work and maybe did a buyout of my music and just did a bunch of music really fast and gave away the rights to it to an organization, to a company that then licensed them to all these, you know, really low rent shows. Yeah, with funny names. There's some embarrassing things out there. Definitely, if you look at my IMDb. But there aren't, unfortunately, there's no IMDb for trailers because they don't get credited on that because it's considered marketing. So it's not part of the production. So any of these trailers I don't get credit for, like in credits or on IMDb. So there's another funny side to it. So yeah, not a lot of shame in my game with this though, because it's like, to me, again, I'm a movie lover. I love making music for TV and film, even if this isn't technically writing to picture. It's kind of like, it's actually not kind of, it's totally opposite the way in which music is done for film and TV on the production. This is, well, post-production. This is making the music first, and then they're cutting footage from the film to it. But even that, it's still always a thrill to hear something that you worked on in your home studio show up in a trailer for a film that suddenly, you know, millions of people are watching. It's really cool.
When you're in contention for a trailer, like where, you know, they're focus testing yours versus someone else's, do you get paid regardless? Or are they allowed to play with your music up to a point? Or have they already bought it?
So that's, yeah, great questions, Jeff. Very good. And interesting. People are shocked to find out about this industry that like, you don't get paid you don't get paid anything until a trailer finishes. Like, and often I don't know if it's even in contention. Sometimes I do. Some of my publishers let me know if there is what's called a stem request, meaning that the trailer house really wants to use this track, so they want the stems, and then there's a potential that it could be going final when you get a quote request, which is like, now it's like, okay, how much is it to use this track? I don't usually want to know those things because so many of these don't finish. It's like you're waiting for shoes to drop all the time. It's like, I'd rather not know, because then it's just a nice surprise. Like, oh, hey, this trailer showed up on YouTube. That's my track. Great. Okay, cool. So I don't really know very often if it is in contention, and I prefer it that way. Oh, what was the other thing I was going to say that's related to that? You don't read my mind. How do you know what was the other thing I was going to say? Do you? Are you a mind reader? That'd be amazing.
You were going to tell me about the time Martin Scorsese called you so he could use your music for Killers of the Flower Moon.
Oh, I wish. He's calling T-Bone Burnett. Yeah, no. But to your earlier question about like if Martin Scorsese wanted to buy the license, like to transfer ownership of any of my pieces of music, the answer would be yes. That has never happened. I doubt it will. But if it did, he can have any of my tracks. Absolutely. I will sign that away.
I think he only licensed that one Rolling Stone song, right?
Oh, that one. There you go. That's a good example of licensing. And that's a really expensive license. It's really interesting how like, I'm not obviously the Rolling Stones, but it's still for someone like me or another, what you call an independent composer, producer, it can be lucrative, not at the Rolling Stones level, depending on the size of the movie. But definitely it's very interesting business in terms of like which studios, you know, have which movies or shows have the bigger budget, the bigger marketing budget, which studios don't like to pay as much as other ones. And then the other kind of black box side of the industry, to at least for me, is when I'm doing like something like a remix. For example, I just the season 3 trailer for Slow Horses, and I did a remix of this track Clubfoot by Kasabian, and I get paid the sync fee for my work doing what we call a trailerization. It's a remix that's designed for So it's not the trailer house doing a quote unquote remix of the stems to make it fit into 30 seconds. This is like a traditional remix you do where you're doing like a different spin on the track, but then it's got trailer elements in it as well. So we call that a trailerized remix. Now in that, I don't own that track. I'm not the rights holder. I'm a composer doing a remix. So I get paid what compared to say one of my original pieces that might get licensed for a trailer, I get paid something similar, maybe less, but whoever owns that track, and it could be Kasabian or could be, I don't know who owns that track, but the amount that is paid out to the artist could be, I mean, depending on the movie. I mean, it could be a $400,000. It could be really high numbers. And for a track like, a Rolling Stones track, it's definitely going to be up there. So there's movie studios have there might be like $100 million budget for marketing. And part of that's going for things like, I just have to have that Rolling Stones track in my trailer, says the studio head. I don't know that they talk like that or are chomping on a cigar. I don't think they do that anymore either.
Gosh, hey, give me that song. Give me that song. I tell you, that Slow Horses, I watched it. I'm like, I'm watching it now. And it's not just because Gary Oldman was really great in it. Your music sucked me right in. And the weird part about it, it's so weird with TV shows and stuff now where I'm like, oh, I have Apple Plus, and here's a show, Slow Horses, starring Gary Oldman, Academy Award winner Gary Oldman. I've never even heard of this show before.
Yeah.
Isn't that weird?
I mean, it's crazy how much content there is out there.
It's insane. Yeah.
I mean, except for during when we had the strike, which is why we were watching. Well, I wasn't, but that's why Suits comes back from 10 years ago. Yeah, putting production stoppages aside, I don't have the time to watch all this stuff. I just started watching it too, Jeff. I watched the first 2 seasons. I'm like, I should watch this show. Once I had gotten the one of the trailers for the first season, and then when I got the trailer for the main trailer for this 3rd season, I'm like, I definitely should check out this show. I love this actor, and yeah, it's that's a case of the marketing sucking you in, and I was part of the marketing for them. Like, I've got to watch this show. You know, if you're getting people to watch a show from the cut of the trailer or from something they hear in the trailer, like there's sounds that we use in trailers. One of them is called the signature sound, which is something that they often will cut that around. It's kind of like the sonic. They'll cut the trailer around it. Like they'll do cuts on this particular sound. It might be a melody. It might be a sonic motif. It could be just like a resonant metallic sound that's repeating. That's called the signature sound. The idea is to, in my mind, attract the ear of the audience. If you can get someone to turn their head and look at the TV or their screen and go, "Oh, what was that?" and you've sucked them in and you hold their attention for enough seconds, they go, "Oh, I'll check that movie out." Then you've won. That's what they're allocating $100 million for potentially. Yeah, very interesting. I never thought that I'd be working in this side of music at all, but for me, it just ends up working out that I love sound and the cinematic side of sound, married to picture. And I just love tweaking in the studio and putting on headphones and playing with tools and taking found sound and shaping it and twisting it. And the style of music that you're able to do in trailers really fits into that. Like, for example, like with Slow Horses, that track for the first season, I'll play a little bit here. This is a track I did called Mutation. This is the kind of thing that is what I would send out or is sent out to a trailer house. So I'm not seeing anything when I'm running this. I'm just working in a particular style for this. It's like kind of slow burn, definitely have an action kind of back end or climax at the end. And it's a piece of music that you listen to. It's not just a collection of like drops and risers and stuff, although we have that stuff. It's like a score for a film that doesn't exist yet. Here's a signature sound. Melody.
Stuck me right in.
Yeah, it's designed to. If I can suck myself in listening to it, then I can suck you in. That's called a stop gap. It's a break. So we're building this gradually. We got our big drums. And that goes on for like another about a minute, but that is making a piece of music specifically for trailers. And the idea, at least to me, is that it needs to be something that you can just listen to as like a music listener, as a I meant to say a music fan. Like, you know, oh, this track sucking me in. I like this. This is cool. And if I can, like I was saying, if I can suck you in or myself in, that's the goal. The goal is actually, it's dual. One is to be able to have something that works, that can work for a trailer and serve that purpose as underscore essentially, but also that I get the attention of a music supervisor or producer at a trailer house, because they hear stuff all day long. They hear like everything. So if I can get them to go, oh, that's dope, then they're more likely to start editing to it. So that track is then just shows up in like this.
You're England's best MI5 agents.
Step away now!
But not anymore. You screwed up so royally, they sent you to me.
Come check this out!
Hostage. There is something finally happening.
That's the job for the real agents.
I am directing all personnel.
I didn't mean to kill him.
If you meant to kill him, he'd still be alive.
There's your signature sound on the title card at the end there, Jeff. And back to here's your callback, Jeff. That same track was then used in this Resident Evil trailer.
Resident Evil, Welcome to Raccoon City.
Several years ago in Raccoon City, I found out the truth about the Umbrella Corporation.
What is this place?
This is where they were experimenting on him.
What the?
We have to stop Umbrella. This is just the beginning.
Resident Evil, Welcome to Raccoon City. Rated R. Exclusively in movie theaters, November 24th.
They're very different shows and movies.
It's incredible. It's really, really, really cool. I gotta say, I've seen in the wild a lot of your work. So you definitely sucked me in. They can count a Black Widow, Hawkeye, and Black Panther view. Credit that to you, Brent Daniels.
Well,
send Jeff Dwoskin their way. This was
man.
Yeah, this was a lot of fun. Thanks for schooling us on this niche world of trailer and music. Trailers and music. Trailer music.
Trailers and music.
That could be a whole different thing. Trailer park music.
Right. There's a trailer house called Trailer Park. So that's already happening.
Brent, where can everyone keep up with you on the socials?
Yeah, probably the best place would be my website, BrentDanielsMusic.com. Google search Brent Daniels. All my socials are there on the front page. And you can hear some of this music and watch a lot of these trailers there if you are interested in seeing the pictures that were happening with sound.
Yeah, amazing. Brent, thanks for hanging out with me. Really appreciate it.
Jeff, thank you for having me. This was amazing. Thank you so much. And audience, thanks for joining us too. I just thanked your audience.
I appreciate it. Hey, they appreciate it. Why not?
I love your audience.